Hello, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to Love is an Action and Reaction, what it is and what it isn't. This talk is going to be about love and what love is, what love can be, what love could be, what love isn't, and what it means to you now. And a lot of us have the same idea of what love means based on what we've been domesticated it to mean, but it really doesn't have a meaning for us because we are lost in ourselves, in our own love for ourselves, and we're detached from love for ourselves, and we're busy trying to get it from somebody else, somewhere else, something else. My name is Anthony Rodriguez, Walking Crow, and this is the Transformational Sacred Drum Medicine. And I'm going to ask you the question that I ask everybody. Oi shino. Oi shino. Oi shino. And are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready for a little information that you may or may not know? Are you ready for a little information that I may or may not know? I am an open book. I am an open source. I am an open heart to what can be and maybe isn't. And I have to remain that way, not only for myself, but for the clients that show up with me, for me, and for themselves. And if you're a client who comes to see me, just doing a little smudging, if you're a client that comes to see me and you've actually heard something that resonated with you, and that is the magic. That is the key. Now, will everybody hear something that resonates with them from me? Maybe not. It might not happen, but that's okay. Because if nothing happens, that's still something happening. And are you in the awareness of the possibilities of what could happen in the place of the heart, in the place of love, in the place of connection, in the place of fire, in the place of earth, in the place of vibration, in the place of seeing, and the place in the heavens and the universe and all that is, and the possibilities of what can be? So love is an action. Love is an action and a reaction. Love is not what they told you that it was. Love is not what they sell to you that it is. Love is not flowers. Love is not candy. Love is not Valentine's Day. That's a whole lot of hooey. That's a whole lot of domestication by Madison Avenue and the Catholic Church and all the churches who sell that kind of stuff for profit and for gain. And they sell domestication so they can control you, and you don't need to be controlled. I hope. And those of you who are out there looking for love from somebody else are going to be controlled unless you know how to love you first, unless you know how to go into this heart space first, unless you know how to go into your sacral area, a place of connection, the place where we birth and where we were birthed, are birthed first, whether you go into the place of the fire, the third chakra, the place of in your sternum, your fire, your fuego, your I can, I will, I do, your I am, your place of esteem. Aho. People seek out love because they have no self-esteem. People seek out love because they think it's what they're supposed to do. I saw a thing online earlier about somebody saying that they were going to go to a small town because men there aren't as jacked up. Oh, really? She's going to go to a small town to find a man who isn't jacked up, who isn't messed up. And my response to her was, you need to fix your picker. And then her and another woman got upset because they said they made a comment about victim, that they've been healed and blah, blah, blah. But you could hear the anger in their statements about men. Really? That is not a healing statement. Being angry about men is not a healing statement. Men being angry about women there's no healing statements in there. Because when we become angry at what others don't give us, or what others aren't for us, or what others aren't to us, the damage starts to float to the top of the water, and we start to see, and more is always revealed. More is always revealed. In the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, it makes that statement. More will be revealed. In chapter 5 of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, it says more will be revealed. And I always tag on, more is always revealed. And a lot of us pretend like, we're not seen. Like our behavior, it doesn't show up. I sat with a friend of mine yesterday, a client, and she came to me 2 or 3 times, but she's been a mentoree since she's come to see me, and that was 3 years ago. And I've watched her progression, and I've watched her grounding, and I've watched her water. I watched her connect to herself as well as others. I've watched her walk through the fires and walk over glass and through things that she didn't know that she could. But I told her she would, and she could, and she did. And I'm glad that she did. And I'm glad that I told her that she could. Now, this talk is titled, Love is an Action and a Reaction. Now, because I showed her love and I knew that she could, because I love me. So if I love me, I trust that you can love you too. And I will walk you through that. I will support you. I will stand next to you. If you're willing to have me stand next to you and support you. If you're willing to say yes to yourself. And if you're willing to stop saying no to yourself. So I showed up yesterday, and that's an act of love. There's no money in it for me. There was no fee for a client fee or any of that. I got in my little car and made my way to Boyle Heights and sat down with this beautiful woman who brought her second oldest daughter, I think, to meet me, because she attributes a lot of that connection with her daughter to what I taught her and what I helped her with. And that's a beautiful thing. So I said yes, and I showed up. And a lot of you know that I show up for you, and yesterday was that kind of a day. And there were several people in yesterday who ignited the spark for this talk. And one of them reached out to me the night before last, but I wasn't able to speak to her. And what she said to me was she had met somebody, and they were flirting, and it turned out that he was a life coach, and that he was hitting on her, it seems like. But then he turned around and said he could help her because he couldn't go out with her because she wasn't where he is at. Or he put himself on a pedestal. He stood up, made himself bigger than he really thinks he is. He puffed up his chest on this young woman and made her small, made her feel small. Now, we talked, she reached out to me, and I wasn't able to talk to her the other night. But yesterday morning, I called her. Now, calling her, there's things I did before I called her. There's things that I do in the morning that lead up to everything else. When I wake up in the morning, I give myself love. Love is an action. So when I wake up, I make my coffee, I go back to bed, I take my coffee with me, and I spend quiet time with myself and the spirits around me and those around me. And what starts to happen is I get downloads of information that you people start to read in the morning as I wake up. Well, I did that, had my coffee, and then I made the phone call to her, and we talked for an hour and a half. Now, I said, love is an action. There's no fee in that for me. There was no fee in that. There was no money in that. She's not one of my clients, but I said yes to her because I said yes to me. I called her up, and I sat, and I listened, and I stood by her. But when she reached out to me the other night with regard to that situation with that person, when I responded to her, I said, you are a beautiful, powerful woman. No one should ever make you feel that way. And the way that I answered her was a place of love. It was a place of seeing her in her power. It was a place of seeing her in her wisdom. It was a place of not belittling her. And that's what love does. Love sees somebody and elevates them. Aho. Elevates them and allows them to feel empowered because they are empowered. Who am I to pull the rug out from under you and disempower you? That is not my place. And I know what that feels like because there are people who've been in my life in relationships, whether they be business, whether they be romantic, whether they be friendships, who have taken liberty at taking shots at me and judging me for who and what I am. That's not what love does. That's not what love does. Love says, you know what, man? Maybe there's a different way. You know what, Anthony? Maybe it's this. You know what, Anthony? Not whack. We're taking a machete and whacking somebody down because you need to feel better about yourself, about your ego. So I said that to this young woman, and we spent an hour and a half yesterday morning talking because that's what love does. I listened. I listened to her. And I asked her about certain situations in her life. And I said some serious things to her. Love says serious things, but love says serious things in a loving way and supports and stands in back of and stands next to and pulls somebody forward if they need be pulled forward. Aho. So then I went off to coffee with my friend, this other client, and I met her daughter, and because that's what love does. Love shows up. Aho. And anybody who is friends of mine, who's dear to me, who knows this, because, you know, I'm connected to people all over the world, all across the United States and all around the world, and I show up for them when they need me to show up. And sometimes I show up and they don't even know I'm coming. And there I am. Bam. There I am. But that's what love does. You know, do you show up for your clients or your friends only when you want something from them? When you need to buy groceries and you don't have any money, and man, I'll charge this person so I can have some. No, that's not what that does. In the big books of Alcoholics Anonymous, it says, freely we give. Freely we give. Freely we give. Doesn't matter what my situation looks like. Love shows up regardless of what anything looks like. Aho. And then I move on. I come home from that coffee situation with that person, and she's elated, and she does what love does. And she says to me in the middle of our conversation, Anthony, I don't have very much money. My account is really low, but feel like I need to send you some money. And I said, you don't have to do that. She says, don't say no. I want to. And one of the things I got in my car, we talked and blah, blah. I said, okay, I don't look a gift horse in the mouth. I say yes because a beautiful gift is a beautiful gift. And what love does is love says yes. Love doesn't go into shame. Love doesn't go into embarrassment. Love doesn't go into hurt or the wound. Love says, okay, and by the time we said goodbye, and I was in my car driving down the 101 into downtown. She sent me $10. Now, somebody would say, well, that's not, any amount of money, but that's an amount of money. That's a meal. That's gas. That's a gifting to somebody else. That, because that's what love does. Love doesn't see the how small the gift is. Love sees how big the gift is. And do you love? And are you loved? Do you have the capacity to be and do love? I hope. Now, all the things that we look at like the negativity of some people will say, well, why didn't she send you $20? That's none of your business. Because see, that's what isn't love. That's what not love. Love is the gift. Love is the offering. And that's not even the sending of the $10. Love was the expression that this is what I want to do from a loving place. That's what love says. That's what love looks like. That's what love hears. That's what love does. Oh. So I go on and I come home and I take a nap. I give myself a nap every day. I take time for Anthony. I take time for resting my soul, because when I'm in situations like that, whether it's on the phone or person to person, or even when I'm talking on the medium like Facebook, I'm expending a lot of energy, and I'm sending out a lot of energy, and I'm healing a lot of people. I'm healing thousands of people, hundreds of people. And it takes a lot to do what I do. And because that's what love does, and love gives. And so I give to myself in return, and I climb into my bed and I cover myself and I take a nap with a cup of water next to me, or a cup of coffee, or what have you. And I don't answer the phone. I don't answer the messages. I don't answer the text messages. I take time for myself and I rest. I hope. So this is what love does. This is what love shares. This is what love gives. This is what love takes. Love gives and takes and ebbs and flows. Love isn't selfish. There's a whole verse in the Bible about about what love is, And so move on into my evening. And at the end of the night, there was a friend of mine that I called in Alaska. And she's a beautiful friend. And I have most of my friends are women. And not everything is as it seems. And there's a lot of women out there that probably, and I get the messages, I get the text messages, I get the smiles and the hearts, and I get the waves, and I get all that stuff, and I get a lot of attention. And thank you. Thank you. I'm blessed with that attention. But that outward attention is not what I'm seeking. I'm seeking to give, not seeking to receive. But it's in the giving that I receive. Aho. So if there's somebody out there that's enamored with me, and actually it's been men and women. I've had men ask me out through this medium. And I'm honored to hear that and to be asked that question. Now, that doesn't do anything for me. I'm not into guys, and thank you, men. I'm honored, I'm honored because they see something in me that they would like to stand next to, or be with, or have coffee with, or converse with, and that's great. And I'm honored by that. But that's what love does. I give and I give and I give, and I want to give, because in the giving I receive. I love to receive the giving that I give. I hope you can understand that. So late night, a friend of mine was down and feeling really blue, and I knew it. And I talked to her a few nights ago, and we talked about a really hard situation, and we laughed about it. But when I got off the phone, I was just like, man, I don't feel comfortable with what the conversation I just had. I was worried about her. She's 3,000 miles away in Alaska. But I'm worrying about her, because that's what love does. That's what friends do. Friends look out for each other. Friends worry about each other. Friends check in on each other. Friends return calls and phone text messages and all those things. If you say I love and you say you love, then be what love is and do. Love is an action. Love is not a saying. There's a lot of people who say, oh, I love you. Oh, I love you. Oh, I love, there was a situation. I was married to somebody. And by the way, I know a lot about love. I was married 3 times. And that doesn't mean that I don't know about love. I have learned through the time in those situations What isn't, isn't. And this particular person used to say to me, do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love? I was always asking that question. Her low or no self-esteem didn't know how to allow her to love herself. So she was always seeking it outwardly from me. And eventually I had to leave that relationship because it wasn't healthy for her and it wasn't healthy for me. And I realized in that relationship, I had tried to save her and I had no business saving anybody. No. And I wasn't even in my medicine then. So I had no business trying to save her or anybody else. I couldn't even save myself when I was dog paddling through life. Aho shinwana honata, aho shinwana hey. Do you hear what I'm saying to you? Do you hear what I'm saying? I know you hear me. I know you hear me. So I call my friend who I know I'm worried about and who I feel is suffering because she's been awfully quiet on SM on social media. So I called her to see if I sent her a message to see if she was okay, and she said she was. And then I called her, or she called me. I called her and interrupted her work at night. She was busy writing, and we talked for quite some time. And I called her because I care about her. I called her because I want her to be okay. I don't want her to be okay for me. I want her to be okay for her and her children. I want her to be okay for her mother who worries about her and wherever her mother is. I want her to be okay for her friends there in her community, the common unity that they share. Aho. Aho. So I wanted her to be okay in that way. And as I know what love does, I know what I do is love. I reached out and spent some time with her listening and talking and sharing, And when I got off the phone, something funny happened because I don't just do this. I said to her, I love you. Have a good evening. And I hung up. And I saw her eyes went, she didn't know what to do with that. She didn't have to do anything. I didn't ask for it back. I said I love you because I want her to know that whether she's 3 minutes away or 3,000 miles away, I am here as a friend and I care because that's what love does. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Oishino, 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 to do and be what love is and what love does. Aho. Aho. There are people listening to me right now who know that I've reached out to them and I check in on that with them all the time, especially lately, and there's a lot happening. We're in a time of transition, of moving into the winter and the full moon, the energies that we were just in, and we're coming into the new year and just come out of the time of the birth of the Christ consciousness. The Christ consciousness is about love. Christ consciousness is about awareness. The Christ consciousness is about understanding. The Christ consciousness is about giving. Freely, freely we give. Freely, freely we give. The Christ consciousness is about being. And I coined the phrase 2 days ago that being is believing. Being is believing. Being is believing. And I posted that on SM social media so others could feel that and hear that and allow that to fall on them. Because when I sit in my bed in the morning for sometimes 3 hours, and yesterday I didn't get out of the bed. I was up at 6, but I didn't get out of the bed till 10 o'clock, 10 a.m. To meet my friend. When I sit there and I'm in my silence and in my being, the spirits, my guides, my spirit animals, my spirit guides, Creator, Great Spirit, Great Mother, and all my relations, ahomi takoyasi, from a loving place, give me those words. Being is believing. Aho shinawana honata. Aho shinawana hey. This is where I vibrate from. But this is what I vibrate to when I take my left hand and I take the hand of divine feminine, the hand of duality. And love says to me, says, Anthony, place that left hand on yourself and receive love, the vibration that comes up from Mother Earth through the feet, through the body, through the elements, into the place of the heart, into the place of love, into the place of air. And allow her to vibrate through your hand, through your wrist, through your forearm, around your elbow, and up into your fifth chakra, vibration, expression. Over to the right side of duality, into the right hand of manifestation, the divine masculine energy that gives to the divine feminine. And I place it right over the left hand and I give it right back to myself, creating a completion of a circle of love that only I can give myself. None of you can give that to me. None of you can show that to me. This mantra that I'm about to share with you, it was given to me by Great Spirit, Great Mother, and the power of the four directions, Ahomi Takwiyasi, all my relations. It's an act. It's not a saying. It's an act. So when I do this and I place my right hand over left hand over heart, and I close my eyes and I want to mirror for you these words, and I say to you and I say to myself and I say to all my relations and all involved, I am where love lives and I am what hope looks like. And I repeat it to myself, I am where love lives and I am what hope looks like. And I say again, I am where love lives and I and what hope looks like. And I say these words and I reflect them to you, and I am the mirror for you and you are the mirror for me. I am here to reflect goodness. I am here to reflect kindness. I am here to reflect a love that I never experienced. Do I do it in a perfect way? There is no perfect way. There is no perfect way, because I was not taught love as a child. I was not taught love as a teenager, and I was not shown love as an adult. As hard as some people tried, they didn't know how, because they didn't have the capacity to be love or be loved. Aho. 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 Now, I often tell this story, and I say to people, I am not a product of love. I am a product of desperation. The alcoholic that was male seed manifestation was running from someplace, or the right hand manifestation was running from someplace, and the divine feminine enabler was running from someplace, and they ran into each other, and they had 5 children. They had 5 children. But these children weren't conceived, I believe, in love. They were conceived in desperation, because these two were trying to, squeeze blood or water from a rock and call it love and make it so, and it wasn't so, because he kept drinking and she kept enabling, and she suffered and he suffered, and because he was suffering, she was suffering, and they stayed together. Now, some of you could call that love. I call it desperation. And I don't want anything to do in a relationship of desperation. I want to be loved and I want to be loved. How many of you want to be loved and want to be love and receive love and give love and show love? How many of you fall way short for yourselves and beat yourself up for falling short? And I'll say this to you. Hi, human. Hello, human. We were never taught what that is supposed to be. They talk about it in the Bible, but then again, there's always wars and there's all this stuff that goes on in that book that says otherwise. The Christ consciousness was condemned. The Christ consciousness was supposed to be condemned. The Christ consciousness was supposed to die in and of himself, to become the ascended master that he became. Master. And a friend of mine from Ohio, her father died the other day. And I asked her. In fact, he died Christmas morning. And I knew it, and that's why I reached out to her. I said, was your father a believer in Jesus Christ? And she said, yes, he was a devout Catholic. And my words to her were, he's with his master. He is with his master. And I said, it's Christmas Day. Why wouldn't he be? Why wouldn't he be? So I'm going to ask you to love you. I'm going to ask you to be loved. Love you first always. Give yourself those things. Give yourself love in a good way. Aho. So Anthony Rodriguez, Walking Co, Transformational Sacred Drum Medicine. I'm going to say good evening now. And I'm going to fade into the darkness as the sun sets. And I'm going to say thank you. Oh, Shino, Shino, oh, Shino, oh, Shino. Be peace, find peace. I am where love lives. I am what hope looks like. You are where love lives. And you are the hope that you have always been looking for. Aho shinawana honata, aho shinawana hey. Anthony Rodriguez, Walking Crow for the Transformational Sacred Drum Medicine. Have a blessed evening.